Hello, church. Welcome to our final video devotional. Over the season of Lent, we have been spending some time with the book Witness at the Cross, written by Amy Jill Levine. And we have been seeing the different stories of those that would have been at that cross the day that Christ was crucified, starting with those bystanders and the scoffers, and this past week spending some time hearing about Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, and thought it would be great for us to just come together after spending the season of Lent and kind of reflecting on what it has been like to hear the stories of these witnesses, and to also see how we might be able to witness during this Holy Week and in the Easter season coming. So thank you for joining us. We're also going to love to hear from you. So please know that you can share your stories of what it has been like this Lent to email or Facebook message or call, or just even come by the offices. Pastors, I'm really curious. What has been your experience of witnessing at the cross these past 6 weeks of Lent?
I have loved this book. I've loved this study because of her scholarly perspective and her scriptural knowledge. The challenge of looking at all the different gospels and what was included and what was not included and why that might have been, and the very stimulating discussions that our Sunday school class has had. I have loved this series.
I'm gonna do that with all that Mary has said, but I think this has given me an opportunity to see into the lives of everyone who was there at the cross that day. You hear the stories, but you don't really get a chance to get into their lives and what they were processing. And it really, at that moment, it gave me an opportunity to really look at myself. How do I see what was happening that day? I know I wasn't there, but when she tied it all together with the synoptic gospels, put them together, then to put John in there, she tied and brought out some great points. And I think that for me, I think this experience for the last 6 weeks has been one that I will never forget, and I will always learn to appreciate. Continue to think about it. It hasn't gone. It'll be there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think the study's been wonderful too. I've heard, good things about those that have actually followed the book or been in group discussions, and certainly have followed the sermon series. I think as pastors, from the pastoral perspective, it's been really formative for me. As we started I launched this series with the first story of the bystanders and the scoffers, that was just as the Ukrainian war broke out, and to be present with the suffering of Christ and to watch a people over these weeks suffer, as we've been journeying with Lent, has just been, it's added a whole different vantage point. We've been talking about vantage point to the power of sin and suffering, and the redemptive work that Jesus hopes for all of us. It's just so intermingled for me with, I think, our present day reality, a lot more heavier this season than perhaps in others. Pastor Josh and I shared, it's like reliving Good Friday over and over through the weeks, but that plus, because I think we've seen so much suffering and so much just needless loss and destruction and grief and horror, literally, as the world community has watched on with that particular situation. So the situation of the people in Ukraine and the suffering of Christ have been real intertwined for me personally in this season.
Mm-hmm. And we would love for y'all that are joining us in hearing this conversation, would love to hear how this, what has it been like to come to the cross every Sunday, and where have you all maybe felt this heaviness, or have seen Christ in the midst of the cries in our community and around the world. At the end of Levine's book, she writes in her conclusion that she sees the witnesses at the cross first as figures that we all might try on, that we readers do well to listen to their stories and see how their stories transform us, And then at that point, we pick up the story ourselves. So, pastors, I'm curious, as we begin a Holy Week and pick up the story, how can we be witnesses today and in the coming Easter season?
So instead of turning away from the horror of the cross, I can now turn towards it and stay there and learn from the different perspectives that there are, how they all handled it, what it brings out in me, and to honor the work and the love that is there on the cross.
It is it's going to make me a more powerful witness to the cross, for the cross, because again, I saw myself in a lot of it, and also by seeing the story and hearing the story, and because we preached it and we taught it and we heard the opinions, people's ideas, it made the cross more alive to me, I would say so. It created a time when I could, a great time of reflection to see, okay, wow, this means a lot more than just him standing, stretching out his arms and giving up the ghost and going back to glory. I mean, it was a lot more to it, and there's a lot more going on in those six hours that this all took place. So for me, yeah, I believe I'm going to be a better witness or testifier to the cross after this series is over, because I'm definitely probably going to read the book on certain points and just to see it again, just so I can keep it fresh in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a professor once, and I kind of questioned this for a while, that said a lot or most of theology has to do with either redemption or creation. And I think in light of what I said, the heaviness of the season, I think the redemptive work of Christ is so needed for the here and now. So, in the work of creation and recreation that God sort of puts in front of us every day, and the choices that we make, and the way that we journey with our own lives with that cross that Pastor Jerry talked about being so formed by in this season, there's an opportunity for us to extend that redemptive power, that power that brings creation alive and anew. God in Revelation, and also quoting the book of Isaiah, he says, I'm making all things new. And that's what happens with the cross, is everything is made new. And even our understanding of death is made new. The worst of human suffering is redeemed at the cross. So looking at war, looking at the horrors of human suffering as we are, and we just look to, what the cross brings, and that's Easter morning, right? Is that the story for us does not end at Golgotha, but it ends in the garden when a stone has been rolled away and their angel voices saying, he's risen. Why are you looking for him? So that brings me to really anticipate Easter this year for myself and for the church and for the world. Really, we need that redemptive story of recreation, of rebirth, so much, I think, in our present context of where we are as a people of God in the world.
Amen.
I'm sorry, I preached a little bit, Josh.
No, please preach away. This moving, this holding of the story, it's one that we aren't called to hold on to ourselves. That this is to be a witness, much like those that we've been reading about. We're called to share it with others too. And one of the ways we do that is by inviting folks to come and hear that story that we know has changed our lives, that has changed the world. And so for church, for y'all that are joining us in this conversation, we want to invite you to come and hear the story again this Holy Week, to come and join us as we see Christ on that Last Supper this Thursday night. as we go back to the cross on Good Friday, and as we all go to the empty tomb and celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ on Sunday morning, we want to invite you to come to be a part of this story and then to join us in sharing this good news with our community. So come and join us.
Yeah, and we hope to see everybody. And if you can't join us in person, join us online. We have such hope for the church in this season, and the world around us needs that hope too.
Amen. Thank you all so much for witnessing at the cross with us this season. And we will see you this Holy Week.